Hello and welcome back to another video. If you're looking for recommendations on what manhwa to read, then here are some that I've read recently that might be of interest. Manhwa titles are timestamped in the video for your convenience. Our first manhwa for today is I Came Back as a Martial Genius, a regression manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 85 on. Its main character is Lee Jun, a character that has gone through some of the more typical tropes we see from this type of manhwa. A weak initial main character, part of a family that constantly berates and bullies them, but has an opportunity to go back to the past and has access to a system that seems to assist him in becoming potentially the most powerful being in the world. A more uncommon characteristic that this manhwa utilizes though is that in addition to the system granted to Lee Jun, a ghost, spirit, or entity that he will eventually regard as his master is now able to communicate with him, and he will clearly be important. The story is 8 out of 10. One part about this type of manhwa that usually isn't immediately directed to is the source of the various gates, dungeons, and phenomenon, or whatever you want to call it. As the plot develops, it's clearly moving in a direction where this mystery will have to be put front and center at some point, and at least for that, I give it props. The characters are 7 out of 10. From friends to enemies, the relationships between the various characters and Lee Jun are quite clear and dry. If you're someone who looked out for him, you will clearly benefit now. But if you're the exact opposite, it might take a while, but Lee Jun will make sure to pay things back twofold. The art is 9 out of 10. With great action scenes in addition to the adorable yet threatening companions that Lee Jun will recruit, the manhwa is able to deliver an art style that truly showcases the emotions of Lee Jun and others, while also packing a punch as needed. So if you're a fan of regression action manhwas where the main character lives a second life with a chance of becoming stronger, then make sure to check out I Came Back as a Martial Genius. This next manhwa to take a look at is We Hate the Male Lead, a reincarnation manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 44 on. Its protagonist is Luna, the childhood friend of Furzin, the male lead of a novel that Luna read in her previous life. Reincarnating into a novel is a common trope for manhwas at this point, but We Hate the Male Lead tries to separate itself immediately as Luna is very much hateful of Furzin. Even though she dislikes the man, Furzin still clearly attaches himself to Luna, which continuously infuriates her to no end. One way she tries to break free is saying that she would rather date Anthes Vincent, an individual who is rumored to be quite cruel and violent, and of course, as luck may have it, she gets entangled with Anthes. Will everything be okay, or are things spiraling out of control as Luna is involved with both Anthes and Furzin? The story is 8 out of 10. Given the common trope of reincarnating into a novel, this manhwa is able to at least subvert initial expectations by going the less traveled path of not being fans of the original male lead, even though the original Luna was quite smitten over Furzin. Our Luna, of course, is just trying to live this new life without all the consequences that occur from the original novel. The characters are also 8 out of 10. If it's anything to go by, we can clearly see from the onset that Anthes and Luna will most likely be an item, but trouble will come knocking for them both as we see how much of the original plot will unfold. At the same time, this version of Luna is quite headstrong, but against the stubborn NPC, if you would, it's useless and constantly exasperates her. The art is 7 out of 10. The overall package delivered by the manhwa has all of the essentials necessary to deliver upon a romantic fantasy story, although it clearly evokes both positive and negative emotions with the way that it portrays its numerous scenes. And if it's going in the direction of where I think it will go, it truly has a lot of potential. So if you're a fan of stories that have a world that already has a predetermined story, but with a main character that looks to change said plot, similar to I Will Escape from the Flower of Trials from my previous videos, then We Hate the Male Lead may just be for you. The Genius Actor Who Brings Misfortune is the title of our next manhwa to look over. It's a modern manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 35 on. Lee Yeon-jae is the name of its main character. Yeon-jae is a loner and is picked on constantly by his peers. Here's the thing though, is that there's been multiple events in his life that he has been attributed to, even though he himself has not done anything. On one fateful day, though, he chose to resign himself and pass on, but a mysterious being got curious and started investigating Yeonjae's condition. After some peering into his soul, Misfortune seems to follow along Yeonjae, but it goes away when he tries to be another person. In other words, acting. Will this be enough to thwart the negative fortune, or will things continue the way they have been? The story is 7 out of 10. The supernatural yet modern setting is what the foundation of this story is built upon. However, don't sweat it if that's not your thing, because the plot transitions more to an acting focus and various other items as Yeonjae gets involved with the acting scene. The characters are 7 out of 10 as well. From staff, friends, families, and other colleague actors, you will see Yeonjae interact with a number of them. Considering he knows his condition, he tries to make sure that everyone around him is okay, at least while he's not acting, to ensure that all the projects go well. Yeonjae is going to be able to handle all of the burdens, yet also be happy. The art is 9 out of 10. With the acting focus, there are multiple styles to enjoy, as Yeonjae will have multiple acting gigs to showcase his work ethic and willingness to shed the weight off his shoulders, somewhat literally. It's another acting manhwa for those that are a fan. So like I said, if you're a fan of modern acting manhwas like To Be an Actor or I Was Immediately Mistaken for a Monster Genius Actor from my previous videos, and are okay with some light fantasy elements similar to Genius Actor's aura, then give the Genius Actor Who Brings Misfortune a shot. The shorter story for this week to take a peek at is The Regressed Doctor Just Wanted to Live Quietly, a regression manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 16 on. The focus of this story is on a thoracic surgeon by the name of Lee Jin-hyuk, a committed doctor who reflected on his past actions negatively after his mom passed away from cancer. Summed up by one statement, "What did I live my life for?" Regretful, he finds himself waking up back in February of 1998, and like any rational person starts questioning what the heck happened. Even if it is just a dream, he looks to live this second chance closer to his family, and so he chooses to continue his medical practice in the nearest place, Ulsan Hospital. What will be the resulting direction of this potentially transformed Lee Jin-hyuk? The potential is 8 out of 10. As someone who is always a fan of redeeming or growth stories when it comes to personal characters, having a second chance at life would make anyone truly look at their choices in life differently. This manhwa, though, can have multiple ways of going forward. It can focus more on the medical field and saving lives, but it could also focus on the familial portion that Jin-hyuk regrets, or maybe even a weird third option of being able to mix the two, but time will tell. The art is 7 out of 10. From the early onset, the emotional scenes and anguish are clearly shown. As it transitions to Jin-hyuk's second life, we can see more of the medical field and its potential for quite heated political battles, and even some reflection on the unspoken hierarchy that exists in a lot of jobs. So if you're a fan of following newer stories and are looking for what seemingly is a medical manhwa that evokes similar styles to Medical Return from my previous videos, then make sure to jot down The Regressed Doctor Just Wanted to Live Quietly for your next read. Another week, another highlight. For those unaware, this is the section of the video I update impressions for manhwa that I have previously covered. Today's highlight is Genius Archer's Livestreaming, which I previously covered as Genius Archer's Streaming, what a name change, to which I've now read up to chapter 56 on. Info card and description will have links to my original opinion. Yoo Sang-hyun, or otherwise better known as Almond the Streamer, has continued to showcase his particular specialized skill set in the streaming world. As he transitioned from one game to another, specifically to one that is reminiscent of the Battle Royale style, Almond clearly has a knack for being both entertaining, skillful, yet also cognizant of his surroundings. With that in mind, he's even able to have his best friend become his quote-unquote manager that helps him with his career. Sang-hyun will most likely have an arduous time in front of him as he has to face his own limitations. My previous scores for this manhwa were 10 out of 10 for potential and 9 out of 10 for art. The potential translates to an 8 out of 10 for story, as instead of going down the route of changing games frequently, it instead focused on Almond's career and particular abilities. Almond showcases his high proficiency with the bow, even causing his viewers to set bounties for him to try and reach. The characters translated to a 10 out of 10 for me, as there are clearly some limitations that Almond has to face, and they could be quite dire if not looked at soon enough. Mix this with his manager friend, other streamers that he collaborates with, and the whole streaming experience, and you honestly get quite attached to the story from Almond's perspective. The art goes up 1 point from 9 out of 10 to 10 out of 10 because, quite honestly, the ridiculous game performance and overall overpowered nature that Sang-hyun displays is crazy and honestly atrocious. Yes, it's for show and stream and it's a manhwa, but it folks that game stream environment so well. Honestly, if you wanted to give modern game genre a try with a manhwa that is easier to follow along with, or are looking for something with a focus on streamers similar to Grand Warlock Streamer from my previous videos, then make sure to give Genius Archer's Livestreaming a chance, please. Would you agree, or would you not? Comment down below your thoughts on this manhwa. And that wraps up this week's episode. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and it really does help out the channel. Write down in the comment section down below what manhwa you've been reading and I might just take a look. Till next time though, have a good read.